When the republic is confused and when the law is twisted, when the word is ignored, there must be an immediate briefing. Fellow Americans, here he is, straight from the heart of Toto town, within the clandestine chambers of the world-famous conservative college, America's favorite professor, officially recognized as first in the nation. This is The Briefing with Professor Toto.
Today we are continuing with the Rabbit Hole Revival, talking about the American Compact, the Great American Compact. Basically an agreement that all Americans make to abide by the decisions of our system, specifically our court system, our judicial system. If you did not hear yesterday's podcast, some of this may not make sense for you, so make sure you go back and listen to part one. Today is December the 19th, 2025. This is Professor Toto coming to you from the clandestine confines of that great conservative college. Make sure you join me live on YouTube every Tuesday night at 7 Central for Toto Tonight, where we talk face-to-face for 2 solid hours every Tuesday night, 7 Central. Just look for Professor Toto, the real Professor Toto, on YouTube.
The Briefing with Professor Toto.
What happens when our compact is broken? What happens when we all decide we cannot trust the government? Many people try to tell me our government is flawed, it's broken. Tell me one government that is not. Even in the church, the government is not perfect. But there's an agreement between the members of the church to overlook the imperfections of men. When the compact in the United States of America is broken, and everyone trusts nothing, trusts no one, here's what it looks like. Look around. You see it everywhere. Right now, you can see it everywhere. It looks like people that will never accept who killed Charlie Kirk, no matter how it turns out in the courts. No matter what the investigation reveals, no matter what evidence is weighed, there's no trust in that system anymore, and therefore there will never be a solution. The Charlie Kirk murder will become the new JFK 50 years from today because of people that are in a rabbit hole that has no stop sign, it has no end. When the compact is broken, it looks like people that can never accept a verdict because they've already decided guilt based on feeling rather than the preponderance of the evidence. It looks like a nation, when the compact is broken, it looks like a nation of amateur investigators who trust their YouTube research more than any institution ever built. It doesn't matter if it's from the greatest government on planet Earth, the greatest governing document ever known to man, the greatest institutions that have kept Americans free and safe for 250 years. That's a broken compact. When you decide you're not going to abide by the governing authority, you have broken the agreement as an American. And a broken compact It doesn't lead to truth. For all the high and mighty podcasters that are speaking on behalf of those that are just seeking the truth, if you're seeking the truth, then you're seeking the preponderance of the evidence, not the evidence, the preponderance of the evidence. You are seeking the weight of the matter instead of the whims of the matter. See, because what happens, it leads to tribalism. It leads to all of those out there that are in the know, looking down on all of us that are trusting the system. Oh yes, we become the citizens that have agreed to trust our institutions. We become those that are not awoke. What are we supposed to wake up to? That our government is not perfect? Okay, we're awake to that. Next, what else are we supposed to awaken to? Here's something I would like the woke people to wake up to. You're on a dead-end road. Wake up to that. You're going nowhere. Wake up to that. You're running in circles like a hamster on a wheel. You've determined you're never going to trust nobody as far as you can throw them. You're never going to trust anything. You don't trust the church. You don't trust the government. In that case, you can't even trust your mama and daddy. Because guess what? They're not perfect either. They're flawed. But you see, you made an agreement as a little child that you were going to honor your father and mother. You were going to honor authority. Because if you don't, everyone has their own facts. Everyone. Have you ever been to court? Do you know that both sides has evidence? Oh yes, both sides has receipts. Both sides has their own facts. Everyone has their own reality, and there's no stopping point. There's no referee to throw down the flag and say foul. And therefore nobody can resolve anything for anyone ever again. I'll be right back.
The volatility of the U.S. dollar is a harsh reality. We've seen the stock market come across ramped losses, even over the past 20 years. There's a need for an alternate financial strategy. How about gold or silver? Welcome to God's Money. With the PSI Security Platform, you can build your wealth and secure your future with precious metals that withstand the test of time. Gold and silver are the secrets the wealthy have used to accumulate and protect their wealth for decades. God's Money works with a team of world-class experts to deliver rare, high-quality, unique precious metals at impressive prices. Don't have the money to invest in silver and gold? No problem. Join our Coin of the Month program. With this amazing program, we will send you a little silver on a monthly basis. Consider this opportunity before it's too late. Act now. Go to www.godsmoney.info.
Now, my friend, I want you to hear me clearly, please. The compact is not the enemy. It's our protection. Because here's what happens when we don't have a compact. The loudest voice always wins. Whoever has the biggest podcast with the most followers, they rule the day. The biggest mob rules. The most persistent accusation becomes the verdict. Whoever sets up a fake Facebook profile and screams the loudest, everybody rushes over there, they win. And suddenly, innocence means nothing. You know why? Because there's no agreed on standard to prove it. No one can agree on a standard. No one can agree who gets to decide. You see, in the compact, we did make that decision. We decided the courts get to decide. And we decided to live with the verdict. The compact says we will weigh evidence and we will create the rules to weigh that evidence. Have you ever been in court and heard the other opposing counsel stand up and say, inadmissible? That's a powerful word. It means, yes, you have evidence, but you didn't follow the rules in acquiring that evidence, or that evidence is tainted. Even though it's evidence, it cannot go on the scale. Why? It broke the rules that we all agreed on. The compact says we will weigh the evidence by the rules we've created, and if those rules are not perfect, and if that thing comes out flawed and the decision is not right, guess what? We agree you can appeal that decision. There you go. That's a system. That's a referee. That's not the rat cage. That's a path forward. You see? And if we don't like the next decision, guess what? We can appeal. But when we run out of appeals, that's your stop sign, society. Stop the insanity. It's over. It's done. That's not oppression. That's civilization. That's a genteel society, polite society. So here's what I'm asking every American under my influence that's hearing my voice. I'm asking you to renew your commitment to the great American experiment, the compact, not blindly, not naively, but willingly, to say, I will trust the process even when I don't trust the people. I will accept the end point even when I wish the plane would have landed differently. And finally, if you want peace of mind, if you want to come out of the rabbit hole, if you want deliverance from the rabbit hole revival, that religion, that cult in and of itself, here's the way out. I will place all my unresolved questions once it's reached the end point in Yahweh's hands. And I will not put my faith in endless suspicion, endless investigation that can never conclude. Going forward in my life, if there is no stop sign on the roads of civilization, I won't drive. Honestly, here's what happens when there's no stop signs and you're driving. The whole thing is crashing. And that's what you're watching right now happen in this great podcast environment. Influencers that are trying to convince you that people are guilty when they are innocent according to our compact. My fellow American, that's not weakness. That's the price of living in a free society. And I argue it's a price worth paying. When I come back in just a moment, I'm going to share with you my personal experience in the 2020 election. And even though I was one of the main influencing voices during that time, I'm going to show you how I stayed out of the rabbit hole and was able to never lose one night sleep. This is Professor Toto. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back.
Have you considered when you spend your money at these mega corporations where it's going? Are you aware that your hard-earned money is being used to support political corruption, which leads to poor federal leadership, hurting our economy, contributing to the overall detriment of our society? This is heavy stuff to think about, I know, but it's time we fought back. Introducing Professor Toto's The Patriots Buying Club. Here, we are a club that gives you the power to invest in companies that uphold patriotic and conservative values your family can respect. Rather than spending your money with these major corporations, we've partnered with a direct consumer company that offers over 400 high-quality, sustainable, and effective products that can be delivered fast, directly to your front door. So many patriots across America has joined us in this walkaway movement. Now it's your turn. Go to www.buybuywalmart.com to join Professor Toto's The Patriots Buying Club today.
The Briefing with Professor Toto.
Now, I want to talk to you about something very personal about myself. Many of you listening to the podcast, The Daily Briefing, you may not know me. Who in the world is Professor Toto? Professor Toto is a satirical character that was born in the crucible of COVID-19 and the 2020 election. The man behind Professor Toto is Pastor John S. Vaughn. That would be me. I was pastoring a very small church in Mississippi, minding my own business. No desire for fame, fortune, or flattery, but all of it found me by providence in the 2020 election. For those that don't know, Professor Toto has been officially declared the first in the nation to ever mention January the 6th. And I want to go back to that time because the voice you're hearing now was an influencing voice that gave life to January the 6th. You're listening to the first voice in America that ever mentioned the words January the 6th and gave impetus and was a great catalyst for that great patriotic day. Now, how did I not lose myself in a rabbit hole in the 2020 election? For those of you listening to me, if you'll be honest, many of you lost yourself night and day, ravenously searching from one YouTube channel to the next, going deeper and deeper. You found every prophet, some with pink hair, some with long hair, some with no hair, some with big hair. You found every prophet you could find to give you hope that Donald Trump would be returning immediately. But you see, in 2020, everything changed. Let's go back there. COVID, lockdowns, chaos, and then, right in the midst of all of that, the election. Donald Trump told us right before the election, if we lose, it will be because of mail-in ballots. Not voting machines, not drop boxes, but mail-in ballots, which the drop boxes sort of go along with the mail-in ballots, so I suppose they are part and parcel. Donald Trump understood what was happening in the background, and guess what? So did all the rest of us. We knew that rules about voting were being changed in the middle of the game. Now, why am I going into this story concerning the rabbit hole revival? Because I want to show you how I kept myself out of the rabbit hole, even though I was the very voice that brought forth hope for Donald Trump's election? Well, number one, Professor Toto is an avid student of the Constitution. I'm an avid student of the law. I love to read the law of God and the law of the United States of America. That's why I love the Torah so much, because law brings us clarity. And as I'm reading the law, I find out that only the state legislatures can make changes to the way we vote in our states. That authority is vested in our Constitution solely to the people's house, the state house, the legislature. And yet, during this election, or just before it, I am watching with my very eyes secretaries of state preempt the authority of the state legislatures. So Professor Toto begins to cry foul. The system is being violated. I was not crying foul to the system itself, but to the violation of the system. And that's very important to distinguish the difference. I'm watching Jocelyn over in Michigan tell everyone in her state, Jocelyn Benson, that they're all indefinitely confined because of COVID, and therefore they all qualify for mail-in voting. Now, hitherto, the only way you could do a mail-in vote, you had to go to the courthouse, you had to sign an affidavit, you had to show your ID, you had to prove that you were confined to a bed or in the military, or you were going to be working at the polls that day. That's it. Everyone else had to come stand in line. But these secretaries of state, they changed the rules, and they did it illegally against the system. They used emergency powers they did not have. They extended deadlines. In other words, they violated what we the people agreed to go by. The rules we all agreed to were thrown out of the window. And later, after it was too late, the courts admitted what you and I already knew, that those mail-in ballots were illegal. You can do your own research. Wisconsin, Michigan, Supreme Courts all ruled that those secretaries of state did illegal activity, violating their state constitution. But what happened, my fellow American? The clock ran out. We hit a stop sign. The remedy came too late because the certification had already happened. The system was over. We hit a stop sign. Now, here's what some people do not remember or either choose to forget. After November the 3rd, the day after the election, yours truly, America's favorite professor, went to war for Donald John Trump. I take that back. I went to war for the system that we all agreed, compacted to work in. I saw that system had been violated. I did not quit, not for 1 second. From election night through the arduous months that followed to January the 6th, I was on this microphone 3, 4, 5 times a day, face to face with the MAGA base. And here was my words to all of them. This is wrong. keep fighting. The system is not finished. There is still time. And I told you what time it was. January the 6th was the stop sign. But until we hit that stop sign, I taught you how we could challenge this constitutionally. I taught you about state legislatures. I taught you about the Electoral Count Act. I spent days teaching on the power of Pence. I proved he was more than a moderator, that he could actually interpret the rules of the House. I taught nonstop, ferociously, gave up my life night and day, gave you my voice, my face. I was in the fight with you, and as a result of it, millions showed up on January the 6th because that was the stop sign. The system ends on January the 6th. And I want to be very clear about something. By the way, if you want this story in detail, you need to get my new book called The Great American Gaslight. It's available right now, autographed and numbered, collector's edition, at thefakepresident.org. The THE fakepresident.org. It is subtitled, Why Joe Biden Will Never Be a Legitimate President. The Great American Gaslight. Only available at thefakepresident.org. Now listen carefully. You need to know from November the 3rd to January the 6th, what you and I were doing was not rebellion. What you and I were doing was not a rabbit hole. Why? Because I knew the stop sign. What we were doing was not fantasy. It was not internet nonsense. It was not tinfoil hat thinking. It was serious constitutional challenging arguments. It was grounded in the 12th Amendment, what I fought for. It was grounded in the ambiguity of the Electoral Count Act. It was grounded in scholarly debate that goes back 100 years. We were not wandering in a rabbit hole. Toto's army was fighting a legitimate battle. We were walking through corridors that actually existed. We were using the system exactly as it was designed to be used. We had our evidence ready on January the 6th. We had senators refusing to certify the election. Of course, we know how that ended. Mike Pence made his choice. He failed us all. From November the 3rd to January the 6th, this voice was not in a rabbit hole. We were in a system. Why? There were courts. We petitioned them. There were forums. There were referees. There was referees that, yes, some were biased, some were frustrating, some were disappointing, but there was a defined endpoint for me. Certification. Certification. The moment Joe Biden was certified fraudulently, the system was over. That was it. That was the stop sign that all sensible, reasonable people with sanity had to come to a screeching halt before we got plowed from the left and the right with those that do not know where the stop signs are. And those people lead good, honest people into the rabbit hole of no ending. You know, oh, he's going to be inaugurated under a new constitution of the original republic in April. Oh, he's about to release the military. They're fixing to bring him back. Oh, JFK and Dale Earnhardt are going to bring him back. I'm trying to show you today, my fellow American, what happens when you don't agree to the compact. A rabbit hole has no referee. Do you know in a game do you know everyone in the stands at a football game, there is an unspoken compact there. Unspoken. Unspoken. What is that compact? The referee makes the final call. And what do we all do? We go, shucks, darn, dang, play ball. Now, you do have some idiots that will run out of the stand and go try to fight the referee. That's called a rabbit hole. Like you're going to get anywhere. But it doesn't matter. You prefer the drama. You prefer the circus over the court. The rabbit hole moves day by day, case by case. It goes nowhere. And whether we like the conclusion or not, on January the 6th, the day of certification, that was our last door. Mike Pence made his decision. The votes, they were certified. Joe Biden was declared president-elect illegitimately, but our system had nothing to deal with that illegitimacy. A system we created by our representatives. At that moment, on January the 6th, not before, not a second before, but at that moment, I was in Washington, D.C. I was standing in that rain and that cold. I was there waiting for a decision, a stop sign. And when I hit that stop sign, something changed for me, something structurally, constitutionally, and permanently. I knew every institutional option had ended. No court could undo it. No legislature could reverse it. No lawful mechanism remained. The scales stopped moving, and there was nothing left to weigh. So that night, I had to make a decision, because at that time, Professor Toto was known nearly by every MAGA patriot in America. They had all gone to Washington because of what I had told them, that January the 6th was the day. Here we all are, and here I am, the leader of Toto's army. I knew everyone was waiting to hear from me. I had two choices at that moment. Turn my camera on and tell everyone, wait. That's not the real stop sign. Oh, no, that's not it. No, it's in April. The military, but for me, it wasn't a theological question. To me, my battle was over. Not because I had changed my mind. Not because I made peace with what happened. Not because I thought it was fair. I knew it wasn't. But if I had kept telling my listeners there's still hope, if I had kept pushing on doors that no longer existed, then I would have been a liar, a con man, a deceiver, and a grifter, a false prophet, a man who kept selling flight tickets to a match that was already over. I couldn't do it. I didn't do it. I lost thousands of followers in one day. Where did they go? They ran to the rabbit holes and the prophets in those rabbit holes. But I went to the microphone the next day, January the 7th. I looked you in the eyes. For those of you that follow my YouTube videos, I looked you in the eyes and I said these words: the lion will roar in 24, and the eagle will soar. I went all over America having revival of the Republic rallies. I spoke at the Clay Clark event. I looked in the face of 6,000 patriots nearly a year after January the 6th, and I told them all, I said to them, the lion will roar in 24. Now, many of the other speakers on that stage were telling everyone how Trump was on his way back any day now. Here I come saying the total opposite. The lion will roar in 24. The eagle will soar. That was not denial. That was direction. That wasn't giving up. That was growing up. I made a conscious choice. If no court was going to rule, if no institution was going to intervene, if no lawful mechanism remained, there was nothing left for me to fret over. I was going to go home, turn it over to God, and continue living life. The unresolved questions, and there were many, there still are, I placed them in Yahweh's hands, not knowing that He had a plan that was so much greater. I've always said if Donald Trump would have gone back to the White House in 2020, he would have been impeached the next day by both houses of Congress, never to run again. We were too short-sighted to see that. But our Heavenly Father that sits high and looks low, He saw that, did He not? And He said, no, let me move that eagle back to Mar-a-Lago. Let me repair his broken wings and his broken beak so he can fly higher than he's ever flown before. On that day, I placed the presidency in God's hand. There was nowhere else for me to fight. My next job after that, for the next 4 years, was to transform into the great consoler in chief for all MAGA patriots. And then I begin to encourage you all. 24, the lion will roar. I had to keep that in your ear. And every time he got arrested, I showed up to wherever he was arrested and blew that shofar. And we declared the lion will roar in 24. Why? That's not a rabbit hole. Oh, no. That's the system. I knew that could work because we have a system for that. I placed it all in God's hand, not in my imagination, not in some chat room, not in endless speculation, but in God's hands, Yahweh. And I chose to move forward. That's how I stayed out of the religion of the rabbit hole revival. But here's what broke my heart. Many of my friends could not do it. I went from 300,000 followers on YouTube. Right now, please, everyone, subscribe to my YouTube channel at Real Professor Toto. At Real Professor Toto on YouTube. I went from 300,000 subscribers down to 114 because I would not go in the rabbit trail. Many of my friends couldn't get out. Good people, smart people, patriots, true believers. They just could not accept that the system had closed. They couldn't stop fighting an enemy that they could no longer reach. And they stayed in 2020. Every podcast kept circling back. Every conversation returned to the wound. Every day for many of us was November the 4th, 2020, forever. Some of them are still here. You're listening to me now, stuck in a moment that history has already moved past. And it's not because you're stupid. Au contraire. It's because nobody teaches us the difference between a system and a rabbit hole. Nobody taught us that there's a moment when the fight isn't cowardice, it's honesty. Nobody taught us that faith isn't about fighting forever. It's about knowing when to stop fighting. I'll see you tomorrow. This is Professor Toto with the briefing.